welcome to Fighting Back Against Addiction. Over the next 6 weeks, I pray that God will fill you with the knowledge that you need to help us join this fight. And so today, I've started our series here in downtown Newark because I wanted you to see the streets. You can be on these streets for about 10 minutes and you can see homeless folks, folks struggling with addiction, folks that are at the end of their rope and trying to figure out how to get their lives back. And so one of the things that bothers me the most is that I know that in these streets, up one of these alleys, one of my good friends probably spent some nights in some trap houses, probably spent some time wandering around here seeking out the drugs that he needed. And he was a father, and he was a good man, and he wanted to do better. And he struggled, and we came alongside him and we did everything we could, and he'd disappear for a while and then he'd come back. But eventually he lost his fight against addiction in taking his own life. I don't want to see that happen anymore. I know that if the church gets involved, if the church begins to do everything it can do to fight back against addiction, that we will make a difference. So over these next few weeks, here's what we're going to do. We're going to look at 6 different angles of the addiction epidemic. First week, we're going to talk about the signs of addiction and the signs of withdrawal. We're going to hear from some folks that have been through it, and they're going to explain that to us. Week 2, we're going to talk about what I think is probably one of the most difficult things, and that is that we might inadvertently be their drug dealer. That if we're supplying them with things that they need so they have money, that money can be turned into drugs in lots of creative ways, and we're going to learn what those are. Week 3, we're going to talk about tough love. That means, maybe cutting people off when it's difficult, maybe making the decision to call the police, and we're going to hear from folks that delivered some tough love. Week 4, we're going to talk about forgiveness, because there's a lot of woundedness that happens when folks struggle with addiction. And so we're going to talk about, and we're going to hear from some couples that learned how to forgive. Week 5, we're going to talk about rebuilding trust and accountability, because it takes a long time. You can forgive someone, but that doesn't mean you should trust them right away. Trust is earned. And so we're going to hear from some folks about that. And then the last session, we're going to talk about health and mental illness, because mental illness often plays a part in addiction. And we want to make sure that we understand the big picture, that it's not just a spiritual thing. Sometimes it's a medical thing or a chemical thing, and we want to make sure that we cover those things as well. And so I hope that you'll join us for all 6 sessions so that we can together fight back against addiction. Welcome to session 1 of Fighting Back Against Addiction. Tonight we're going to be talking about the signs of addiction and also the signs of withdrawal. And we're going to hear some interviews from some guys that have been on the streets, they've struggled with addiction, and they're going to speak directly to us about the signs of addiction and the signs of withdrawal and how awful that can be. And so I want you to build an awareness so that you know how to spot and identify what these things look like, because no person in active addiction is going to admit that they're in active addiction. And so we've got to be able to see these signs. So tell me your names.
Jeffrey Jackson.
All right.
EJ Snyder.
Ryan Hansen.
So I'm trying to help families understand the ins and outs of what drug abuse looks like, what addiction looks like, because there's so many people that hurt their kids more than help them in the process, because they just don't know how to respond to the whole situation. A lot of people are just in disbelief that their family member would even be using drugs. So what are some signs, clear signs that someone is using drugs?
Yeah, like you're getting nervous, you're antsy, you're still hearing things. It's just like I don't know. I have problems with my breathing. You know what I mean? Like when I start coming down, I get so antsy, and it's just like everything's coming in.
And
Everything.
that's meth?
Yes.
Does that? So how many days have you stayed up, Brian, on meth?
I've been up 15 days. The last time I was up that amount of time, when I crashed, I woke up in a field with one shoe missing. My shirt was gone. I have no idea how I got there. I had to take the sock off of my foot that I had a shoe on, put it on the other foot, and walk home like 4 miles.
Wow.
I still to this day don't know how I got there.
Mm-hmm.
I slept for like 5 days, constant after that, and I was still paranoid. There was still a part of me that was really anxious, that I thought people were out to get me, that they were talking about me, that to the point of completely withdrawing from everyone.
Mm-hmm. So I had an experience this week, and I won't go into detail, but where someone was tripping out, pretty sure it was meth, but I could hear them talking about everybody's looking at me. Is that the paranoia?
Yep.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
So you just feel like all eyes are on you, every whisper is about you?
Yeah.
No, you actually hear it. It ain't that. It's like I can be. I'll be right here and I'll be watching TV and I can hear you call me. You know what I mean? Talking to Drew, saying, "Oh, Jeff just did that. Did you just see what Jeff did?" And even though you guys didn't say nothing,
Really?
in my mind, I know that you sitting there been talking about me.
Really?
Yeah.
So that, I mean, to just for family members to just know that if their loved one is acting like they're the center of the universe and like everybody's talking about them, thinking about them,
Mm-hmm.
against them, then those are good signs that something's not right.
Yeah.
Yes, I've had experiences where I've had a good conversation with my friends, knowing nobody has any ill will towards me, and immediately I walk into the other room and I can hear them. I can physically hear them saying things about me, although they're not talking.
Yeah.
They're not saying anything at all, but I can still hear them.
Wow.
There's a psychosis that meth brings on that causes a paranoia that it alters reality to the person sometimes. And nobody can convince them that it isn't going on.
So how long do you have to use meth? I mean, I know it's different for every person, but in general, how long would someone have to be using meth before those symptoms of paranoia and stuff set in?
Just a couple of days.
Some people immediately. Some people, you build up a tolerance, and those things get extended. It never really goes away, but you learn to recognize it.
Mm-hmm.
So in the beginning, for me, the paranoia and things were a lot stronger than they were after I built up a tolerance. But when I built up a tolerance, then the sleep deprivation came in, and that's a whole new dynamic.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Pastor Brian. Like how the best way you can tell when somebody's on meth is they don't eat.
Mm.
They're fast paced at everything they do. They're not slow of nothing,
Okay.
and they're like that all day.
Okay.
You know what I mean? And you can tell somebody, normal person or whatever. You can tell by their actions when they're starting to hurry up, run in there, hurry up, bounce back. Got a fast pace through their walk. You know.
Yeah.
They grab things quick. They're always in not normal motion.
Okay. Okay.
And that's definitely a good sign. And they don't get tired. You know what I mean? Like, somebody out working, they should be getting exhausted a little bit or whatever. They're not. So if you got a kid or that's out working all day and they come home and they're still energetic,
Yeah.
then that's a sign.
Yeah. Do you think that? So what are some of the physical signs? Like just by looking at someone. What about pupils? What about spots or sores or what are those with meth?
With meth, one thing would be your teeth. You start to let go of your teeth. You're doing so much you forget to take care of yourself physically. For example, brush your teeth, comb your hair, you know, your eyes get real dilated. You pick your skin constantly. You get kind of sores, or
Why do you pick your skin?
you're just fixated. You're speeding so hard that you see one spot and you just get lost and wrapped up into it, just picking it, and before you know it, you pick the skin off. You're just bleeding.
Wow.
Yeah, you really don't even know it.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, like you be sitting here all day, and I'd be constantly just doing this right here, and I'm doing it so hard, but
Didn't realize it.
I don't even realize it before I know it. I got
Yeah.
sore.
Mm-hmm.
And I was reading online that opiates affect your pupils different than meth. Like the ones that speed you up, they make your eyes not dilate but constrict.
Yep,
But then the opiates
vice versa.
make them get big. They dilate.
Heroin makes them small too.
Oh, it does?
Yeah.
Heroin makes us small. Meth makes your pupils big.
That's right. I had it backwards. Yeah.
There is a concept that people think they see shadow people during use of meth, and it comes from the pupils being big and the way the eye reacts to the light.
Oh.
The light jumps,
Yep.
and it causes people to think in their peripheral vision that there's movement.
So let's go back to opiates for a minute. What are some signs that someone's using opiates?
Sleeping a lot, tired. You know, you might be able to catch them just sitting up, falling asleep, or nodding out. Isolation's a big one.
Isolation. What about paraphernalia? What kinds of things might you find?
Tin foil, you know, whether they're smoking it or cut up straws, they could be snoring it, or spoons from shooting at needles. You
Okay.
can take it every other way.
Ripped up filters from cigarettes and stuff.
Ripped up cigarette filters.
And what are those?
Q-tips can be used as filters. Cotton.
Tell me about the filter. What do you mean? You gotta have a
when you
filter.
melt the heroin down in a spoon, you don't want to just draw back the straight liquid, so you throw a little piece of cotton ball or a little cotton in a cigarette. If you don't have none, you can use that, or you pull off some of a Q-tip and throw it in the water, and then you stick your needle into the Q-tip.
Gotcha.
That's how it filters it out.
Okay. Okay.
So, stuff like that. I know the withdrawals for heroin and pills would be, equivalent to like the flu, but just the worst flu. The flu times a million is what it's like waking up every day. You hurt to your bones hurt. You hurt so deep. You get muscle spasms to where you're literally jumping out of your skin. You can't sit still. You can't sleep. It feels like your eyes are sucked in the back of your head.
Do you vomit and
You
stuff?
vomit. You cough. You poop a little bit because you got diarrhea so bad.
Yeah.
It's just, you can't do nothing. Just the smell of anything makes you so nauseous. You puke.
And how
Energy.
and how soon after you take pills again or use drugs again? And these are symptoms of withdrawal from what usually? What kind of pill or what
Usually
kind?
opiates. I don't know too much about the speeders, but I know that's a lot of opiates. Heroin and pill withdrawals are very similar, just different severities.
And so once you've taken those drugs again, do those symptoms subside within minutes?
Within minutes, but it's
Within
quarters.
seconds.
Seconds?
As soon as
Yeah.
you do it, you feel like $1 million.
Really?
And almost
When you're using, can I talk?
Good, yeah.
When
Yeah.
you're using the needle,
Yeah, when you do IV use, it's
Yeah.
instant.
yeah.
When you take some
Wow.
pills, you gotta wait for it to get in your bloodstream.
Yeah.
But as soon as it does, then once again, and that's why I try to explain to my aunt, it's like you having the worst flu ever, and you know that you go to a doctor and give him $20 and get you antibiotic to get better.
Mm-hmm.
But unfortunately, ours is it goes every day.
Yeah. 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 Ryan, when you've experienced withdrawal?
Yes.
And
Experienced withdrawal from methamphetamines and heroin.
And what's meth withdrawal? Is it similar?
There is some of the aches and pains, but the withdrawal physically is a lot different, but mentally you have a lot of paranoia.
Mm-hmm.
There is sleep deprivation causes a lot of constant sleeping. If you don't have the drug to get high again, you will sleep for a long period of time, only to get up to go to the bathroom, to eat real quick if you can eat,
Yeah.
to drink water. But there's a psychosis that meth brings on that will keep going after you come down if you don't get that sleep.
All right, so when you were living at home and you started going out and using and stuff, experimenting, how old were you?
See, 20?
20?
20, 21.
Okay. So what kind of led you to the point where you had to seek help and kind of surrender everything? What stuff went on in your life?
Combination of stuff. Mainly, not being able to start paying my bills. I was missing bills. Not being able to get to work on time.
So you were living at home, but you had bills to pay?
Yeah, I had college, car payment, phone, credit cards.
So your mom and dad were trying to make you be independent
Yeah,
on those
yeah,
things,
they
which
weren't.
is great. I mean, that's...
Yeah, they weren't like, talking me into staying at home or anything like that. It was just that was what was convenient. I was they didn't see any reason for me to need to be on my own.
Yeah.
I was pretty sneaky, so they didn't know exactly what was going on. So
Yeah.
and they knew I would flirt around, I would drink and stuff, but I wasn't about to tell them I was doing heroin.
Right.
So.
And were they pretty blind? I mean, do you think they could have seen the signs if they were schooled?
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, hi everyone. Hope you're ready for session 2 tonight. We're going to be talking about some of the most difficult things that we might talk about this whole series. The title of this session is You Might Be Their Drug Dealer. Because the reality is that if you're helping them in certain ways, that you could be enabling them to have the resources to continue to use drugs and alcohol. And so we're going to hear from some folks tonight in the interviews that have had folks that lovingly tried to help them, but inadvertently made it worse. And so let's hear from them tonight and see how we can avoid enabling our loved ones. What are some ways that you guys may have manipulated family members to do things for you that they shouldn't have done?
Make them feel guilty.
Yeah,
Okay.
play out the weakness.
Yeah, because they know you know that they love you, so you try to make them feel as worse as possible.
Yeah.
How dare you? I wouldn't do that. Or how dare you gonna throw me out into the streets?
Yeah.
Yeah, I got a lot of bills coming up. Can I get $20 for gas? All my money went to bills, and when none of it did, or I need this, I need that, just stupid, and they get dumber and dumber and dumber and dumber, the excuses.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And Ryan, what about you? What kinds of things?
In the beginning, it's easy because there's still a trust. But when the questions come, why do you need this money? You've been working, or the manipulation comes in, and the new ideas come in. And once those ideas, like my car has a flat tire.
Mm-hmm.
Once those things wear out, and your cars have 4 flat tires this month, then you have to start really playing on people's emotions, and that's when the manipulation of guilt and shame, things like that come in, and you use people's love for you against them.
So what are some things that family members did for you that they probably shouldn't have?
You gave me money,
Mm-hmm.
place to live, keys to the car.
Really? So, did they know you were using them when they gave you money? I mean, did they were suspecting?
They had to have known in the back of their head. You know, I know as a parent, you wouldn't want to believe, you know, hey, my baby's a heroin addict or shooting drugs. You don't want to believe that.
Right.
So, I mean, I want to think that they did because my parents are ex-addicts. They've got 20 years clean.
Wow.
So it was a little harder to manipulate them, but you still find a will. If there's a will, there's a way. You know, being an addict, you're going to get your fix.
Wow. So you manipulated people that had been in your shoes.
Yeah, I remember one time I snuck into my dad's house. I knew where he kept his wallet. I took his credit card. I knew the PIN number. And I didn't get but 2 uses out of it before he knew exactly what it was.
Okay.
So.
Yeah. How did any of you guys steal from family?
Oh yeah. My mom and dad went on a vacation down in Florida and they come home to an empty house.
Really?
So about hot water tank, cabinets, vanity.
You sold all that out of the house?
Yeah.
Wow. So did they know before they left that you were using?
No. Or, yeah, they knew I was using.
Okay.
They wouldn't give me no money.
Okay.
So then that's when you go from manipulating to stealing.
Yeah. Right.
So-
because you have to have
You gotta have it.
somehow. So if people cut you off, then and family needs to understand that. If they cut you off and give you the tough love that you need, that doesn't mean that you're going to get better necessarily. It just means you might have to go deeper into the hole first.
Yeah.
And something else, Pastor Brian, I'd like to say, just in case I'm thinking about now before you bring it up.
Yeah.
But society tells us so many times that, you know, we're addicts and we're just going to be using again.
Mm-hmm.
And I just want people out there to know that that ain't what it is. You know, yeah, we was an addict, but I was just living in sin.
Yeah.
You know, and when you come and find Jesus Christ,
Mm-hmm.
you know, that's where the true love falls in place.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? And I just want to put that so that people hear, because I used to use that to my advantage too. I'm going to meetings.
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying.
Right.
All I slipped up. You know what I mean? And I just was wanting people to know that you know, that ain't the truth.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. It is, and I'll say this a lot in these interviews, that discipleship in Jesus Christ is really the only way to recovery, and that it's not about the recovery.
No.
It's not about just stopping using.
Mm-hmm.
It's about becoming who God created you to be in Christ Jesus, and that the recovery is a byproduct of your discipleship.
Exactly.
And I feel like a lot of the programs out there, they focus in on you not using and make you focus on it more, right? Because that's all you talk about in all the meetings. Is,
Well, not just that. They tell you you're going to fall.
right.
Just pick yourself back up.
Mm-hmm.
So you already got in your mind that you're going to fall again.
Right.
But as long as I don't quit and just keep on going,
Mhm.
then I'm all right.
Yeah.
And no, that ain't what it is. And that's something else about the discipleship, about accountability. You know, I know from here on out that I got to have an accountability partner with me.
Mm-hmm.
No matter who it is, you know, my wife, my friend, you know, I know I can't be out by myself.
Yeah. Yeah. What are some hard consequences that you guys received for going down the hole of darkness like that?
Prison.
You was in prison?
You know.
Homeless, living in my truck.
Were ya? What about you?
I was homeless for 3 years. My mom has a 5-year protection order on me.
Wow.
I'm about to go through a divorce. My children are just now coming back into my life. And I have nothing to my name except for the clothes that I have here at the ministry that I'm in.
Okay. So you were 3 years homeless. Where did you stay?
I bounced around between trap houses, which are drug houses. I stayed under a railroad trestle. Most of the time I stayed high and walked to stay warm. I was out in shorts and snow last winter.
And how did you stay high if you were on the streets? You don't have to go into great detail, but
anything I could do. I would steal, lie, cheat, manipulate, anything I had to do.
Okay.
Shoplifting, anything that could result in money. I
Mhm.
would work too, but
Mhm.
sometimes work is a form of
Just a pathway to getting what you need.
what's the word I'm looking for?
I don't know.
Enabling.
Oh.
Sometimes work is a form of enabling.
Okay. So, in other words, if you're using and somebody's like, well, if I just, in other words, people might think, well, if I just get them back to work, everything will, I think that's one of the fallacies too that families have, and you confirm this if I'm right. Nobody's ever going to get to the point, like, if you're living in someone's home and they know you're an addict and that you need to get your life turned around, you're probably, as long as you got a warm place to sleep, no one pressuring you to quit what you're doing, and all the things you need to continue using, are you ever going to get to a point on your own where you say you're done in that setting?
Why would you?
Yeah. So people who wait, and I think there are a lot of loved ones who are like, well, if I just give it time, they'll get to the point where they don't want to do this anymore, and we don't want them to be on the street because we love them and all that. Is it? I mean, what's wrong thinking with adults that feel that way? Why is that wrong for them to?
If you wait, sometimes it could cost them their life.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That next use they could overdose. That very next instance where they decide to use, you could lose them for the rest of your life.
Well, and the truth is, they could deliver tough love, and their loved one could still overdose and die.
Absolutely.
But
They can stay there and they can die too.
right, death is going to be between them and God. But as far as we go as parents or loved ones of addicts, we still got to make the choices that give them the only hope of recovery, and that means sending them out the door.
Yeah, I know. Like my aunt would not give me no money. Like when I asked for money or anything, like I asked for diapers for the kids, she would never give me no money. She'd go and buy everything.
Yep.
And then that's how she knew that. Cause I'll throw a fit. I'll get mad. Why can't you just give me money? Make up some kind of, she'd be like, I already know.
Yeah.
So now I ain't gonna get you none. Cause now I know that you
Right.
don't need it.
Yeah. Because you could always sell that stuff too.
Yeah.
Did you do that? Did you ask for stuff that you needed, and then whatever people got you, did you sell it? Did you ever do that?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Everything you could. Video games, shoes, hats.
So really what people need to understand is any help, anything they can give you that's of value is in your mind almost like handing you the drugs.
Yeah.
Right?
Only thing it's food. Giving somebody something to eat's different. You know
Right.
what I mean, but
it's a
that's
consumable. You can't
But-
sell that.
But
probably,
anything else, nope.
Right. And I think that's hard, man. I mean, if I ever write a book, one of the chapters is going to be, or might be the title of the book, you might be your loved one's drug dealer.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think a lot of people don't realize they're the ones that are making it possible for them to continue down that road.
Well, and that's like my aunt when I asked her for this last time. I asked her for a pizza because she'd buy me a pizza. Usually she would, and she's like, "No, I'm done with that." But she's like, "But I did take out a couple days out of my time and found out a place for you to go." And she said, "And that's my love, and this is my last, help.
Wow.
You go there, I'll help you. I'll get you whatever you need.
Yeah.
As long as you're there doing good, then you don't have to worry about nothing."
Was that here?
Yep.
Wow.
So, and when I first come in, I had a little tote, just a little thing. Had like maybe a couple pairs of pants, a couple pairs of socks.
Yeah.
Now I'm doing pretty good. God's blessed me.
Just tell me again some of those things you've done as far as stealing stuff or using stuff to get money.
I would use my son to get money off my mother. Like say I needed diapers and really didn't need diapers, and then take the diapers back and get a gift card, and then take the gift card to the machine and get the 80% from that. Or
Oh,
something.
wait. So explain this because I don't know about this. So you can use any gift card and get cash for it?
Yeah.
How do you
There's-
do that?
What's those machines
Vending,
called?
it's almost a vending machine, like a kiosk.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's exactly what it is. It's a kiosk machine.
Just
Really?
stick the gift card in,
And
they'll
Kroger's.
give you cash back.
So anybody who says, "Well, I won't give them a way to get drugs. I'll just give them a gift card." That's not
just
gonna
Oh,
work.
get
I
his
love
money.
it.
You can
That's-
look at them lines for the machines and just see a line of people just tweaked out.
Really? Wow. Okay.
Or steal cell phones. I would go to the bars and steal people's cell phones, like when they weren't looking,
Yeah.
and then take the SIM card out and go to the cell phone machine and. sell
Wait,
it.
what's a cell phone machine?
There's machines in the Kroger and stuff. Some of the Krogers you can take in, or in the malls.
Yeah.
Well, that Kroger
Yeah.
in Newark got one.
What is it?
You take them in and sell your old phone. You put them in the machine and it recycles your phone.
Yeah.
And it gives you cash.
Yep.
What?
Good amount of cash, too.
Yeah.
Really? So if you stole somebody's iPhone
Yeah.
and put it in there,
Yep.
it would give you a bunch of money for it?
Yeah.
Wow. See, I don't know any of this stuff. A lot of people don't know any of this stuff. All right.
I've taken a tablet of my daughter's to the pawn shop and then manipulated my family into going and getting it back for her. I've asked for money for birthday presents or Christmas presents and just used the money for drugs.
Uh-huh.
If you even suspect someone's using it,
Yeah.
you might as well just not even give them anything at all besides a meal.
So here's the problem is how do family members who have always been loving, caring family members get to the point where they can trust their instincts about what they've learned about drug use and believe the facts or the signs over your words and manipulations?
They make drug tests, offer a drug test. If they deny it, they're hiding. If they have nothing to hide, they'll take it.
That's true.
So it's just like $7 from CVS. Buy a drug test, test them. If they have nothing to hide, they'll take it.
That's a
If
great
they're hiding
point.
something, your instincts are right. If they say no,
It's really the only black and white way to tell, right? And now tell people how they can cheat on a drug test.
fake urine. They make fake urine at waterbeds and stuff. You can buy Terminator for $42.
What's Terminator?
It's a brand of pee that I've used it to get employment at jobs.
And then they got the Wizinator too.
A Wizinator. It's a
I've been
fake
busted on that.
I've heard about that.
friend's pee. You can put it in a condom. Just hold it.
They actually
Wait, we gotta tell people what the Wizinator is.
It's a fake wiener.
So, because in some settings, the PO is going to watch you do your
Yeah.
drug test, so they
Most
got to
of them
see
do now.
something happening.
Yeah, they usually have a mirror in front of you and they stand behind you to where they can see everything.
But you can use the Wizinator and fake them out.
no,
No.
because they make you pull up your shirt.
Oh,
Yeah, they want to look and see what's going around.
so what's the Wizinator get around?
Well, it used to get around POs, but probation officers, but they've caught on to that over the years.
Now, is there ways to dilute stuff in your system quicker?
Yeah, denture cleaner,
What?
the denture cleaner tablets.
You mean you gotta, like,
Eat it. And
really?
drink water. Once you start peeing clear, you're good.
Niacin
Nice and
What's nice?
heats up your blood, thins your blood out, cleans your system up. Or
See-
you can drink a ton of water and
'Cause
pee a little bit in the toilet and then catch the mid pee in the cup.
Okay.
So to get the toxins out first, and then you put the good pee in the cup.
Wow. I mean, people don't know this stuff.
and like for girls, they my baby's mom had a plastic tube.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the reason why now that for females they make you use it, then you gotta stop and hold it and use it again because they used to be able to just put like aluminum foil on it,
Oh,
pop it, and let it come out, and then you would never even know.
wow. Okay. Man. How do people use in jail? Are you allowed to say? Are you allowed to say?
They get it in from the girlfriends usually or one of the guards. When I was in jail, I had it brought in with on my glasses, reading glasses.
Oh, really?
Took the earpiece off, stuffed them with Suboxones, and stuff them back on there.
All right.
Most people, well, like in county jails, they use each other's meds, cheat
Oh.
their meds, and a lot of people were on meds and stuff.
So they just save them up, sell them,
Mm-hmm.
so they're getting the money.
Yeah,
High dollar.
Really?
especially for sleeping meds and stuff.
What's the prices of some of the prescription meds that get abused? What can you pay for a pill?
Well, Suboxone goes for $8-10 on the street. You can go for $150 for half of one.
I see more than that now.
It's just ridiculous.
It's 18 on the street now, and they're like if you go to Noble, they're $300 for a whole one.
Now, tell everybody what Suboxone is, because not everybody knows.
It's a drug to help you basically get off drugs. It's no drug.
It's a prescription drug.
Yeah, and it helps you get off heroin. It stops the withdrawals. And when you're not on heroin or withdrawing, really, it'll get you high.
hmm So people just have, substitute Suboxone for whatever their drug was before.
Yeah.
Opiates and opioids bond to your opiate receptors. Naloxone is the active ingredient in Suboxone, and it bonds to your opiate receptor stronger than the opiates or opioids would.
Okay.
So it blocks, but it is also a mind-altering substance. People use it for addicts for pain relief. Doctors prescribe it for that. It has the same reaction as heroin and Percocets or opioids. It's just it bonds to your opiate receptor stronger, so you can't use the opioids or opiates over top of that because it won't bond with the naloxone in your system.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So what are some other, what's a Percocet go for, and what milligram is usually street
Usually
worthy?
$1 milligram.
$5 milligram.
$1 a milligram.
Perk 10s would be $10.
But are Perk 30s, what's the highest dosage you get on the street?
30.
30?
They usually go for $30 to $35.
Okay. And so if you have a choice between Percocet, because, so a shot of heroin,
Mm-hmm.
how many Percocet 30s does it take to equal a shot? As far as getting high.
You do a $10 shot be equal to a $30 Percocet.
Really? So they're even? One Percocet would be like one shot of heroin?
No.
No.
You'll think?
No, it takes probably about two 30s to equal up for a 10.
And how long does that high last?
Depending on your tolerance.
I wouldn't get you high, just get you well.
Mm-hmm.
Oh. So
Yeah.
that's something else I think people don't understand is your tolerance builds up. And is that why people go to shooting up instead of taking prescription drugs, because they need more faster?
In the beginning, I could snort or take Vicodin and get a little bit of a buzz, and then Percocet, a strong Percocet, like a Percocet 20, would make me sick. But not long after I was doing that, I was snorting heroin, and as soon as heroin took over, I was injecting it.
What do you mean took over?
My first taste of dope sickness came from Percocet 15s. The repeated use, it gave me dependency. My body craved it. My body had to have it to function, and that is what causes the sickness. And when you don't have that, or you don't have the money to pay for the milligram of pill, heroin's a dirtier substance. It's an easier way to get the medicine, the opiate, opposed to the opioid.
Yeah. And it's cheaper, right?
Yeah,
a
it's
lot
cheaper.
cheaper.
Yeah. A lot more dangerous.
Mm-hmm.
It's cheaper now. It's more easier to get. You get heroin easier than pills now.
Yeah. So tell me real quick, each of you, what your drug of choice was.
Everything.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So you used meth,
Yeah.
cocaine, heroin.
Crack, heroin, Xanaxes, Somas, yeah,
And
LSD.
but they do this, right? Some of them take you up, some of them take you down.
Yeah.
And so, did you mix them for functionality? So you take some that were bringing you down, and then take
Yeah, I
some to
did
get.
just different things for different. Like if I went to work and then I do math, and then when I come home, I do a little bit of heroin. Then I'm ready to go to bed at night. I take a couple of Xanny bars and go to sleep.
Tanny bars, what's that?
Xanny bars, like
Oh,
Xanax.
Xanny bars,
Yeah.
yeah. Okay.
Yeah,
Gotcha.
Xanax is good.
Mine was, my baseline was heroin, but as long as I had heroin, I was always doing something on top of it. So I always had heroin, and then I would either do coke or Xannies or a little meth. I didn't do too much meth, but every once in a while, or just anything on top. But I had to have heroin
Yeah.
first.
I battled over the years. In the past, it was heroin, but these last few years been meth.
Okay.
I'm the same way. I started out with heroin, and I got off of heroin for the dependency, but I got into meth, and I would use meth to bring me down, but there's been periods of time that I would use both at the same time.
Oh, okay. What's speedballing?
That's what it speedball
Is that what that is?
using
Upper and downer at the same
upper and
time.
downer at the same
What does
time.
that do to you? I mean, it makes you high, but it did the two counteract each other, so you're not droopy or hyper, but you're still high?
When I would speedball with meth, it would give me the speed of meth, but the pain relief of the heroin would take away from the lack of eating that I've been doing, no sleep. The aches and pains would go away, but I would still have the energy from meth.
I gotcha. Yeah. And what's coming down off that? I feel like,
Death.
really? It's even worse?
It's not fun.
Yeah.
Once I got high, I didn't want to come down for that reason.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. What else should family members know, you think? I mean,
Their loved one will thank them in the end after it's all said and done.
mhm.
It'll be terribly, terribly hard in the beginning. They'll tell them they hate them and they'll kick and scream, but in the end, they'll thank them.
Mhm. Tough love is kind of like tough love with a child, in that when you say no to a 2-year-old and they lay on the floor and throw a fit, it's amazing how many parallels there are between that and the fits that we can throw to try to get our way in addiction.
It's almost about the same.
Yeah.
Because they say when you start doing drugs, like a lot of, then you start, you freeze there. You don't get mature. You just live right there in that time frame.
I've heard that your level of, is it intellectual and social maturity stops?
Arrested development.
Arrested development. So,
Your loved one will look you right in the face and lie to you. And it's not that they don't love you, it's that they can't help themselves but lie.
right.
You know,
Yeah.
the fear and the drug takes over.
hmm It's hard to accept that when you're on the side of the table of the parent or the brother or the sister or the uncle that's clean, that's trying to help someone. Maybe they've never used any drugs, and it's so hard to say to someone who won't admit they're lying, I know you're lying. I can't hardly do it to you. Last time I did it to you.
Yeah.
But, I mean, it's, so it really takes a lot of guts on a parent's side, especially a mom, I think, because that's their baby, to be able to say, the best thing I can do for you is not help you at all and not let you live here anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And so did some of your parents eventually say that to
Yep,
you?
I'm here.
My mom has a 5-year protection order on me. I wasn't even allowed to use her Wi-Fi at her house. The only thing a parent can do is control their own actions, and if their actions completely eliminate any help towards anything that they can do to get drugs, that is the only thing that they can control. If the person that's using, their loved one, has to rely on only themselves, that is the closest thing they can do to help them towards the broken state that they need, that they know that they need help.
Mm-hmm.
I stole from my mom, and she didn't put me in jail. And that, if she would have put me in jail, that could have stopped me from using at that point for a period of time. And being in jail, being isolated away from everyone is not fun. But I know it's not fun for a family member to put you in jail, and everything in society is going to tell you that you're doing wrong by putting your loved one in jail. But if they're going to steal from you repeatedly, then by not putting them in jail, you're enabling them to keep doing that.
Yeah.
Well, I would believe in a certain situation like that, I would come up with this spot here. Either you want to go to a ministry, or you want to go to prison. You make the choice. I don't care.
Right.
Either way you go, you won't go one of them.
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely.
Which I prefer to come here.
Right.
But it makes it a little bit more, you know what I mean?
But there's a lot of people that would choose jail over recovery.
Oh, it's a lot easier.
Because you just got to do your time
Yeah.
and get back out and start where you left off.
Mm-hmm.
What did your mom say to you?
It was actually my dad.
Your dad?
I was just moved back in with my dad. He actually just got out of rehab. He's doing all right. And then I would sell. He had a PlayStation for his my brother's kid, a PS4, and I would take it and pawn it. And then when I got paid, I would get it out of pawn. And so I noticed he'd come in my room and check, and he would just leave, wouldn't say nothing. And then the day I pawned it, he came in and said something and grabbed my arm and looked at the inside of my arms. Said, "You gotta go, dude. You can't do this no more." So he watched me pack my stuff and load my truck up, and I was leaving. I just see him out the blinds looking, and I know my dad had tears in his eyes. I could see him, and
Yeah.
I could tell it hurt him real bad.
Yeah.
So me and my dad, my other two brothers aren't close to him, but me and my dad are best friends.
Wow.
And so I've been doing the rehab thing for almost 2 years, and he's stuck with me right by my side.
He did the best thing he could do.
Yeah, because he's went through it himself.
Yeah.
So he knows, he knows what to look for and what I'm going through, and I can talk to him. And at the end of the day, I thank him and
Yeah.
thank God.
Yeah. Well, hi everyone. In this session, we're going to talk about tough love. Tough love is something that I believe that many family members and friends of addicts struggle with because they feel terrible when they don't help or when they say no. And so we're going to hear from some folks that had to deliver tough love and the results of tough love. I absolutely love this couple. They're friends of mine, and so I can't wait for you to hear their story and hear what it took to help him have a turnaround in his life. Tell me a little bit about when you guys met and how you got to, you started dating and all that.
I was with someone else at the time, and my boyfriend then needed a truck. So someone said, "Hey, go see Scott Hookrattle at Reichert." I said, "Okay." So I went in there, and that's the first time I had ever met him.
Okay. And did he sweep you off your feet?
Well, he really didn't have a chance to. He was in his sales mode. So, but I bought the truck.
Oh, well, there you go.
Yeah, but that's when I had first met him.
Okay. All right. And what did you think when you saw her?
Well, actually, when she went walking back out through the showroom, I slid out from behind my desk and I looked at her. And another gentleman was sitting there and he's like, "What are you looking at?" I said, "I'm going to marry her."
Oh, is that what you said?
That's what I said.
Is that that?
Yeah. And then she kept calling me for stupid stuff.
Oh.
Like I didn't.
Yeah, I did kinda like him.
I said, you just push the, I forget what some of the things were,
Yeah,
but she
you're
would call
right.
me just for, I'm like, this is a weird call.
I did. I forgot about that.
That's
Yeah.
funny. That's
So,
funny.
so then at that point, I actively started pursuing her.
I gotcha. Okay.
And
Cool.
Because my best friend at the time was dating his best friend. So
Ah.
that's how.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So tell us your names.
Teresa.
Scott,
Now, were you struggling with addiction then too?
yes.
And how long have you struggled with addiction?
35 years.
Wow. Okay. And so I want to address some of the issues around tough love and things that maybe Teresa had to do in order to kind of help set things straight. So maybe go back, let's see, when did I do your wedding?
That would have been March 14th, or March 11th, 2014.
2014.
Yes.
Yeah, I remember.
And were you doing good then?
I was I wasn't drinking, I wasn't doing drugs. I was what they would call in recovery a dry drunk,
Okay.
which means I just wasn't drinking, but I wasn't sober.
Okay.
And by that I mean, you know, the obsessive thinking and the irritability part of it, severe mood swings,
Yeah.
struggling really hard, just fighting it, refusing to drink, just
Yeah.
refusing it, but not knowing how to live.
Right. Right.
And so yeah, I was when you had married us, and then we left and went on our honeymoon.
The next day.
And everything was great. We got to a campground over in Wytheville, Virginia, to spend the night, and I'm like, we should celebrate.
Yeah.
And she's like, what do you mean? I said, well, we can just go up to the little store here, and we'll get something to drink, and we can just toast and celebrate. And that kicked it back off again.
Yeah. Yeah. So from there, did it kind of spiral out of control?
There, in between there, I think you went back to the VA. There were so many back and forths.
So
Up
lots
and
of
down.
relapses and attempts to get help.
Yes, yes.
Yeah. So
And your primary place to go get help was the VA?
originally, yeah.
Originally?
I had been to the VA 4 times.
Okay.
Twice before I met her, and then twice for treatment after I met her.
Mm-hmm.
But I had also been at another treatment facility prior to meeting her, or getting together with her, because I was at the VOA for 6 months as well.
Okay.
So yeah, it was always up and down, up and down.
So was there
And
lots
a lot of promises.
Yeah. So there was lots of times when you guys were having tension because in the marriage because you were up and down, and was there a lot of manipulation and lying and hiding?
Yes, and I always knew the minute he'd walk in the door, he thought he was hiding it.
Yeah.
But I could tell by his body language. that
The
he'd been
moonwalking.
drinking.
She's like,
Just
you've
his
been drinking.
But he thought, and that caused tension, and I was always worried, and I always felt like I was being a warden.
Yeah.
You
Right.
know.
Right.
And
Did you do things like look at his phone and stuff and try to figure out where
not-
he'd been or?
yeah, when he got into the drug part, he'd fall asleep or pass out, and I'd look at his phone. I
Yeah.
could tell he didn't know how I knew how to do it, but I could tell where he'd been.
Oh.
That location. thing.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So then I knew I had a little. I didn't let him know that. but
Right.
I felt like I had some control.
Yeah.
of it.
Okay. So
Yeah.
tell me the worst, like when it got to the worst point and you were disappearing. I think that happened around Christmas time.
Right after Christmas.
And what year?
2000 and
Chelsea got married.
yeah, so this is 2018. So no, it would have been 2016.
Yeah.
Which
Yeah,
she just brought up a good point.
Okay.
So I had decided that I was going to quit drinking again when my daughter was going to get married and down in Nashville. And I wanted to give her a wedding,
I
a
remember
nice
that.
wedding.
I remember that.
And so I saved my money and I spent a lot of money on it. And I thought this is going to make everything great with us. And so I didn't drink for like 6 or 7 months. And then we went down there for the wedding. And it was nothing like what I thought it was going to be. And at the time I didn't know it was poor pity me. I was thinking, you know, what did I do wrong?
Yeah.
And so it was a big disappointment because it was nothing like what I was I thought it was going to be all kisses and hugs and I love you, Dad. And it was sit in the back. I don't want you to walk me down the aisle.
Yeah.
So it was, you know, it was a really big disappointment for
Yeah.
me. And so that gave me the excuse when I came back, because that was in
2016.
December though, wasn't
Oh
it?
yes, it was the end of.
Yeah, and so I decided, well, you know, the marriage went good. I gave her a happy marriage, and so I don't have a reason to not drink.
Yeah.
And I started drinking again.
Yeah.
And that really was kind of when it started to
Yeah.
really go south,
Yeah.
was that point.
So tell me, Teresa, tell me what that season looked like as far as when he was home, when he wasn't home, you know, when you knew where he was, when you didn't.
Well, it all started when he was working in Hebron. And when he was coming home later and telling me he was working late and had to go look at a motor home because someone was trading it, I said, okay. But then I called over there and I said, hey, is Scott there? And he said, no, he went home early. I said, really? I thought he was going to Chillicothe to look at a motorhome. And they said, no. I said, okay. So that's when it all, and then I think that's when you didn't come home for a couple days.
Yeah.
And
So that's when the drug thing came in. He was going to wherever.
and you were getting involved in some pretty bad stuff then.
Mm-hmm.
What kinds of things did you do?
Well, you know, like she said, I would, for me, I'd have 2 or 3 drinks, and then I would be gone. So it went from drinking to isolation at home drinking to then I would have a few drinks either before coming home or when I got home if she wasn't there, and then I'd end up in a crack house. And I'd be there for 3 days, 4 days. She would be calling, leaving me messages, and you know, after about 2 days of that, you're like, well, I'm not going home. I don't want to go home and face that.
Yeah.
And so I stay out longer. And then I would end up coming back home, and you know, I hadn't eaten for 3 or 4 days, haven't slept for 3 or 4 days,
In the same
hadn't
clothes.
showered, same clothes, stinking, unshaved, not hadn't brushed my teeth.
Yeah.
Several hundreds of dollars less
Yeah.
in my pocket. And, you know, I'd come home and she'd just look at me. And I'd take a shower and get cleaned up, and I'd go to bed, I'd get something to eat and go to bed, and I'd sleep for, 12 hours.
Yeah.
Prior to that, I would be able to control it to where I could get up and go to work.
Yeah.
And then it got to be where I wasn't going to work either.
Yeah.
And then so after I'd get about, 12 or 24 hours worth of sleep, I'd drink again because I was going through the shakes and withdrawal,
Yeah.
and right back out again. I did that every week.
I remember that.
Yeah,
Oh,
for
for-
2 or 3 months.
So what did you do? How did you handle that?
a lot of praying, and I had the recovery group that you had here at church that really helped.
Mm-hmm.
I exercised a lot. I just had ways of trying to think, oh, this is just, eventually he'll smarten up. And,
Yeah. You thought it was a phase or something?
Yeah, I think I kind of did at first.
Mm-hmm.
And then it just kept going downhill. Wouldn't come home for 4 or 5 days. And that's when I thought, this is really serious.
Yeah.
And I even drove to where, because on his phone,
Yeah. Yeah.
I even drove over to see where he was, just so I kind of knew it set in more,
Right.
seeing it,
Right.
the hotel he was in, and the neighborhood.
Yeah.
And that's when I'm like, okay, he's either going to die or I'm going to get hurt because of the people he's hanging with.
Right.
Because he told me they stole his wallet, knew where he lived,
Yeah.
his address. So that's when I thought, okay, I got to start thinking of myself.
Yeah. So what did you do? What kind of what conversation did you have with him about what you were going to do, or did you just take action?
No, I would, and then I'd just get mad because I could tell in his demeanor it was like,
Yeah.
I was nagging or,
Yeah.
right, you're not going to leave me. That's the
And I
kind of
didn't
attitude.
think she would.
You didn't
Yeah.
think she would.
And that just
She
made me
did.
mad. It made me very angry, and I thought, okay, I don't want to say anything I'm going to regret. Because we would talk about forgiveness and our
Right.
recovery thing and reading scripture. And so I thought, I'm just keeping my mouth shut, and I'm just going to do it. So I packed up my stuff when he was on a binge, and I went to my parents.
Yeah.
And then that's when he really went, wow.
So how did you respond to that?
Well, honestly, I took it as an opportunity I'm free. Now I don't have anyone to answer to because I had lost my job again, the same company, twice that year after Christmas, and then I lost it again in September, which is right after she left me. So I had no job. She wasn't there to hold me accountable. There was no one to hold me accountable. And so I took it as an opportunity that I'm free. And that's really what I did. And that's when things really, really got bad. That's when, getting shot at, pistol whipped. I'd been run over by my own car, by somebody I let borrow my car. Because you trade it for drugs.
Right. You
Yeah.
trade what you own as a
Uh-huh.
resource for a little while. So people were probably running drugs in your car,
Yes.
Yeah.
and that's how you got the drugs you wanted.
Yes.
Yeah.
And and then that went on for a while, and I think I even had contacted you a couple of times.
Yeah.
And it got to the point where I think your last text message or your last voicemail to me was kind of stern. And I'm like, so I'm done with Pastor Brian now too,
Who's
because
next?
he's not listeling to me.
No,
He don't
I'm feeling
care.
sorry
Nobody
for you.
cares. You know?
Nobody cares.
And it went really downhill quickly, and that's when I actually had taken a razor knife to my arm
Yeah.
and didn't know that I did it. And when I woke up the next morning, I had blood all over me, blood all over in the sink and in the bathroom. I'm like, what happened? And I looked, and there was a knife on the sink with blood all over it, and I'm like, okay. Well, she had come over
To
and
get close. Sometimes I would go just to check.
Yeah,
And
right.
I was worried.
Yeah,
And
I
I
was
was-
basically contemplating suicide. That's where I
Yeah.
was at. I was
Yeah.
at that point.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I would come over, and then I saw that blood, and I asked him when he called me 3 days later or whatever, and he said he didn't remember.
Yeah.
And then there were burns on the counter from crack pipes, and
Yeah.
because he'd started smoking at home because I wasn't there.
Right.
So he didn't really have to keep going to the hood.
Right.
Yeah, and then
Yeah.
the neighbors,
Oh, yeah.
you know.
He'd hanging out in the,
they-
he'd hang out in the garage.
One of my I would literally hide under my car, laying underneath it
In your own garage?
in my own
Paranoid.
garage. Paranoid.
Oh.
And I'd put stuff on the windows, and then I would hear things.
Well, you were doing meth?
Crack.
Crack does the same thing as meth?
I don't know. I've never done meth.
Wow. Okay.
Yet.
No.
Hey!
Well, and that's what you really, you know, I hear people say, well, at least I never did that.
Right.
And in
Well,
the,
you're
in
just
the
saying
meetings,
that-
we talk about,
Yeah.
yeah.
Because you're saying.
Because I would have.
Because you're not invincible. You can
No.
still fall.
Yeah, and
And
I
that's
still
true of
can,
all
but
of us.
if I had not
Right.
gotten my life turned back around, I would have done meth. I tried to do heroin. The guy
Yeah.
wouldn't let me do it.
Hmm.
He told me, he said, you've never done this? I said,
This was a drug dealer.
he's like, I'm not. Oh, yeah. He's like, I'm not going to give this to you. He said, you're not getting it for the first time from me.
Wow. That
I
was-
had a drug dealer drive me to recovery, rehab.
Yeah. That's a whole
I think I
nother-
remember that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, what was the turning point where you started to rebound and come back?
I think the arm deal and the loneliness was setting in because I didn't want to come home, but I didn't want to be there either because I knew I was going to die out there.
Yeah.
I'd come close very
You said you were going to
Often.
hang yourself. Remember you said you
yeah,
were trying to-
you know, I had already figured out how I was going to hang myself in the garage. And there was a lot involved in this. There was a lot of loneliness and shame and regret and remorse and self-pity.
Sure.
You know, a lot of that stuff. And, you know, I think, you know, the last time she came over, I looked at her, and that look that she has in her eyes for me wasn't there anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was a look of helplessness
Mhm.
and fear and maybe regret
Yeah.
of being with me.
Yeah.
And that really started crushing me emotionally.
Mhm.
And then you know, no one would call me. Nobody would take my call. Nobody would call me back. Nobody wanted to come see me. Nobody wanted to have anything to do with me. And the desperation and loneliness part of it started to really take its toll on me. And I talk about this in the meetings when I do my lead. It was about 1:30 in the morning, and I was sitting out in my driveway, and I was looking up at the stars, and the feeling of abandonment,
Mhm.
which I had felt many years earlier when I was taken away from my family, and I spent 3.5 years in orphanages and foster homes.
Mm.
So that same feeling had wrapped around me. And I got done and I started praying, and I asked God, I said, God, I said, everybody has left me. I have never felt this lonely in my life. Have you left me too? And I prayed. Well, the next day, the guy that's my sponsor now, I called him. I said, you know, Goody, I need help. And his nickname's Goody.
Yeah.
And he said, I know you do. And he had
We'd been
we
talking.
had known him
too.
through, because I had experimented with going to the meetings and finding out how many of these people have a bunch of problems.
Yeah.
I don't know
That's
why.
what he'd
They're-
say.
Don't they have
Man,
anything
Teresa,
better to
these people
do
have
than be here? You know, and so he told me, he said, I'm going to call Shepherd Hill, and I'm going to see if I can get you in there. I said, okay. So, and I kept telling her I'm going to do this, do that, and I never did it, you know. But I believed it when I said it. Every time
Yeah.
I told her, I'm never going to do this again. I promise.
Mm-hmm.
I meant it. I really did. But I was sick, and I was spiritually broken. And that's where that loneliness, I mean, the separation, because I knew what it felt like to be able to talk and pray to God. I knew what it was like to have her support me, but I didn't have any of that anymore. And
I mean, I want to ask you a real important question. Do you think it was necessary to lose all that,
Yes.
to regain your.
Yeah. If she would have stayed with me, I think I would have died. In fact, I'm pretty sure that I would have, because it was getting to the point where I was kind of being hunted down out there, because they knew I had a bunch of money and on me when I would go out.
Yeah.
And the comment had been made, you're going to die out here. And so if she wouldn't have left me, I would have kept on going, thinking that,
Kept playing the game.
yeah. But with all of that happening, it forced me into thinking and realizing. And so I ended up, and here's the funny part, and I don't know how much time we have here. So Goody calls me and he says, call Shepherd Hill. I talked to the lady there, and you need to call her. I'm like, okay, so I call her. This is Scott Hookrattle, and she said, yes, I just talked with Goody. Can you be here Monday morning for intake? And I said, I can be there. She said, can you make it through the weekend by yourself? I said, no problem. It wasn't an hour later, I'm looking at my watch, and I'm like, okay, well, this is my last weekend.
Oh, no.
And I'll just go, and I'll be back tonight.
Yeah.
Well, this was on a Friday. Monday morning at 6:30-ish, something came over me, and it said, Scott, Goody is going to meet you at your house and take you to Shepherd Hill. You need to go. It's over. It's time for you to get out of here. So I walked out into the kitchen where my drug dealer's house was, and they're sitting there, and I said, I'm done. And they said, well, what do you mean you're done? I said, I'm done. I'm done. I'm never coming back here. I'm done. This is it. And they both looked at me, and one of them put his head in his hands, and he said, finally, you need to get out of here. You need some help.
Wow.
And I'm like, what? You don't belong here. You need to get out of here. You need to go home to your family. You need some help. And don't come back here again. Because if you do, they're going to kill you.
Wow. Well, hi everybody. Tonight we are on to session 4, and we're talking about forgiveness tonight. Forgiveness is critical for folks who have addicts in their families to begin to get to the other side of this painful journey. Even after someone is beginning to be clean in their life and not use anymore and recover, there are forgiveness issues. And so tonight we're going to talk about those issues, we're going to read some scriptures about those, and we're going to hear from some real life folks who have forgiven their loved ones and moved past the woundedness. How long had you been struggling with addiction up to that point?
I started struggling with it before my surgery, while I was still in the Marine Corps, which would have been late 2009. Then through my surgery and through recovery through my surgery. So it was late 2009, so 2.5 years about.
Okay.
Yeah, I was gonna say 3 because it was alcohol.
Well, alcohol before that, yeah, so it was
Yeah.
probably about 3 years.
Because there was a drinking culture when you were in the Marines.
Absolutely, yeah.
So when Had the drinking caused problems in your marriage?
Oh yeah.
Very much
It had.
so.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Big time.
And when did you guys get married?
2003.
2003, August 29th, 2003.
Okay, and so now fast forward, it's 2011, and you guys start coming to me.
Mm-hmm.
So this is something that's been going on for quite a while.
Yes.
And is it the painkillers from a back surgery that kind of led you toward opiates?
Yes. Yep. I had injured my back during my last platoon as a drill instructor. They gave me a script of Percocet,
Mm-hmm.
and I took more than I should. I took, I think, 3 instead of the allotted 2,
Yeah.
and realized, wow, that made me feel good. So
Yeah.
4 couldn't hurt, 5 couldn't hurt. So then it just kept escalating from there.
Yeah. And Kaylee, when did you know there was a problem?
Very shortly after he started.
Okay.
I actually even called his doctor and said he's taking more of these than he should.
Okay, and what did the
Don't.
doctor say?
And he gave him another script.
Really?
Yes.
He extra supplied.
No.
Yeah, well-
Well, he gave him like a script when it was
time.
when
for
it was time for it, but he
Oh.
like I even like he would be asleep during the day and I would count them and I would say, look, it's halfway through his script and he only has 1 week left. He's taking more than he's supposed to, and they even verified that he was doing that, and then he would still go back and they would still give him
Yeah.
more.
Now, did you lie about it? Or
Oh,
did you,
yeah.
Yeah?
Absolutely, yeah. And even when I was in the Marine Corps, I doctor shopped, meaning I went to different doctors and got scripts from multiple doctors.
Okay. So, what kinds of things did you do to hide your addiction?
I obviously, I would lie constantly about it. Anytime I was confronted, I would get angry because I thought that was a way to deflect.
Yeah.
If I got angry, then she wouldn't want to talk to me about it. That was probably my main
You just
method.
You didn't come around either.
Right.
He would leave a lot because he didn't want to be around us when he was doing it, so he would just go.
Yeah. And so this all came to a boiling point when?
In 2011.
Yeah.
Yep, in 2000, well, I got out of the Marine Corps in 2010. Lived with my dad for a couple months. Then we moved out to Pleasantville, the house at Pleasantville. I rang up a lot of money on the credit card that we're trying to pay off now.
Like, how much?
About 15 grand.
Okay.
And that was after going through a $32,000 severance pay.
Wow. And so that was all drugs?
Not all.
Not
of
all
it.
of it.
No,
Some of
but-
it was bills and some,
Okay.
Yeah.
house payment and rent and stuff like that. But a majority of it was drugs. Yes.
Okay.
And then the credit card, and it came
There were several boiling points. That was the first one. Was in
right,
2011.
right, because that was
Because I remember there were some relapses.
yes,
Yeah,
Right?
absolutely.
So, did you go to treatment?
3 times.
Yeah, I went the summer of 2011 to the Coshocton VA, and then I relapsed a month or 2 after getting out of there. Went
The
back
next year.
and went back the next year, and relapsed the day that I got out. I lied about needing money to pay off a drug dealer, and I took the money and bought drugs.
So one of the things that I think is becoming more clear as you're telling your story is that you were buying drugs on the street from, I mean, you could have went to jail,
Right.
basically. I mean, you were doing drug deals with folks to get what you needed because you couldn't get prescriptions anymore.
Right.
Yeah.
Yep.
Or you did that when you were getting prescriptions
Yeah,
too.
I did, but at that
that
point,
time, no.
nobody
Yeah.
would give me a prescription anymore.
Yeah.
I did go to the ER a couple times and lied about pain or whatnot to get, a small prescription of them. But
Yeah.
yeah,
So what was, Kaylee, in your mind, what was the worst, like the moment that you said, this isn't going to happen anymore?
Halloween. probably. That we came to trunk or treat, and he was mad. He would go, like, if he didn't have pills or whatnot, then he would get really angry and would take it out. But I forget what year that would have been, 2012. And I told him he had to leave, that he wasn't allowed to come back.
And was that the year? I remember you telling me a story about you being at home when the boys were younger, and they were out in the yard, and you were
I was passed out.
passed out.
That was earlier, but that same year.
That was that same year, yeah.
Okay. And
Yeah.
so that was kind of a wake up call too, wasn't it?
Yeah.
If I remember.
It was.
Yeah.
It was. I think that might have been one of the main starting points to this has got to stop.
Yeah.
For me
Yeah.
in my head.
Yeah. So what did you do, Kaylee, to reinforce the idea that we're done having these problems?
Well, he went to Chillicothe to detox that weekend. I took him and dropped him off. I told him he wasn't coming back home when he got back, that he had to prove that he was finished with it. And he went and stayed with his mom. Like, he would come over, we would talk all the time. He would talk to the boys and come see with the boys, but he didn't stay there.
Yeah. And
Definitely.
so tell me a little bit about how long it took for two things. One, for you to forgive Cody, but for Cody, for you to forgive yourself.
I don't know that he's done that yet. I'll throw that out there. This is going to make me emotional. I had a long conversation with my mom, actually. And my mom helped us through a whole bunch of stuff, like just that people go through, just being married in general.
Yeah.
But my mom didn't want me to stay with him, obviously. I don't know what mom would. But she always supported my decisions, and even though she thought it was the wrong one, she gave me advice and told me that as I'm the one that chose to stay with him, and I can't push it in his face that he did all of this. I can't, when we get in an argument, I can't say, well, you ruined our family by being an addict. Because even though he chose that, I chose to stay.
Yeah.
So having that conversation with her really opened my eyes, because I knew I couldn't.
She's wise.
And I never threw it in his face.
Never.
I never.
Not once.
Because she said, as much damage as he's done to our family, if I'm the one that honestly wants it to work, I can't throw it in his face, or I'm the one damaging the family. So, I mean, I would tell him all the time that I didn't trust him, but I didn't say, it's your fault we're here, or
But
you're the reason that we did this, and
But at the same time, I knew going into, once I made the decision to quit, that I knew that trust was going to be a hard thing to regain.
yeah.
And I don't blame her one bit. And even if trust isn't rebuilt 100% right now, I can't blame her.
Yeah.
Can't.
Yeah. So, forgiveness. When do you feel like you forgave Cody?
As far as him being an addict, I don't know that I ever 100% faulted him. I understood he had PTSD. Like, I got all of that. It was, I had to forgive him for the things that he said and did.
Yeah.
That took a long time. I would say he's so hard on himself that it was probably easier. He never tried, he always took, he always said it was his fault.
Mm-hmm.
It still took a good couple, 2 or 3 years, I would say. Yeah, that was definitely the whole worrying about him and where he was and what he was doing and who he was with. That took the longest. Just because it was so ingrained in me at that point to worry about those things.
Right. So when do you think, was there some sort of a season of time where you're just like, you felt like God lifted it from you, or was it just so slow of a process over time?
I mean, it was a slow process, but I would say, so he checked himself in, not because he was using again, but because he wanted to go. He went to like an outpatient rehab
It was
at
because
Shepherd Hill.
it was because I felt I was sober, but and like we heard in Scott's interview, a dry drunk or a dry addict.
Yeah.
That's kind of how I felt. And so yeah, I went back to an outpatient treatment at Shepherd Hill, just to kind of get my foot back in the door and get myself moving into recovery and a recovery program again.
Yeah.
I mean that, and I think that doing that helped me get back into church, and in turn getting back into church. I mean, I don't go to AA meetings anymore just because, I mean, church is really all I need.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. So,
It was after that, though, definitely, that I saw a change in him. The big difference between that time and every other time he went to rehab is every other time he went, it was like he got out and he didn't want to share anything. He didn't want to share his stories. He didn't want to talk about who he was with when he used to use. He didn't want to do any of that. And when he went through that program, he talked to me about all of these things that he never would have told me before. And then even after that, he would, like...
And we'll still be talking, and there'll be things that, you know, we get on subject of it, and I'll say, well, yeah, I've done that before, and I tried this, and she's like, you did?
yeah.
You
Yeah,
know?
because you probably can't even cover
Right.
No.
all the stuff you've done or
No,
deceived about or whatever.
unfortunately not.
And then it just kind of triggers with some memory, and you're like, oh, yeah.
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 So, but at this point, it probably doesn't cause hard feelings, right? I mean, it's just
it doesn't
like,
cause hard feelings now.
We kind of just laugh about it.
yeah. Yeah.
I mean, that might sound sadistic to,
No.
to some, but
No.
But that definitely was the eye opener for me, where I was like, wow, I think he's really, I mean, he'd been, like, my biggest worry before that was he's going to relapse. And I have to say, that's always in the back of my mind, even now. Like, I
Sure.
know that is a possibility. But then it was like, well, he's really trying.
And Cody, what about forgiving yourself?
I don't think I can argue with her. And I don't think it's not that I haven't forgiven I don't think I've fully forgiven myself for absolutely everything.
Yeah.
And that's, I think there'll come a day that I will.
Yeah.
It's just, it's a long process, I think.
Yeah. And I think that's okay.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that's normal, and I think that people need to understand that it takes a long time to forgive a loved one who's, wronged you in so many ways, and it's hard to forgive yourself because I think that's part of relapse is it's escaping from the responsibility of what you've done already,
Yeah.
and just saying,
I don't have to deal with it now.
yeah.
Yeah.
So, to be able to face it is really, really, really hard.
Yeah.
So,
Absolutely.
so what part has your relationship with Jesus played in this whole thing? I mean,
I think it's the biggest part, absolutely. But I think ever since we started coming to church when I first got clean. Actually, I was still using when I first came to church, and I had relapsed, a couple times in there. But once I actually got clean, and we started doing the whole drug testing thing, and I think we both finally started giving more of our life to Jesus. I think it's grown us closer, big time.
Yeah.
We're 100% honest with each other with everything. We pray together at dinner. We'll sit down and when we have time with the kids and stuff and do devotionals and stuff like that together. And,
That's awesome.
it doesn't happen as much as it should, but it does happen.
Yeah.
I remember I wasn't home and you were watching the boys. It was in the summertime. It was years back. I was out of training for work and you called me crying and you said that you had to have still been using. You were crying it was like the time before your final time.
It was.
You said you just were bawling in the driveway and praying you needed God to help you quit. And
Yeah, that was my that was the last time before I went to detox. I went to detox the final time that day.
Yeah.
So you did have a moment where you just broke down before
Broke
God.
down.
And
Yes,
said,
absolutely. I had the kids. Like she said, she was gone, and I think just all the weight of, I kind of realized I have these young kids relying on me. I got a wife that loves me. What am I doing? And I just fell to my knees and started crying and praying and I think God gave me the answer to straighten your butt up. You know?
right.
It's on you.
It's on you. Yeah. I mean,
Yeah. And that's a huge thing. I mean, to accept the responsibility for the direction of your life and for God to say, I'm going to help you through this,
yeah,
but I can't do it without you.
exactly.
You gotta
Yeah.
make
I'm
the
not going to
decision.
do it for you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. What about after Cody was clean for a while and you had to leave him with the boys alone? Was that gradual or was that pretty quick?
Well, as long as he was drug testing, I didn't worry about it.
Yeah.
So I didn't worry about leaving him with the boys then, ever. I did before. So I never knew if he was clean or if he wasn't. Before we were doing the drug testing, I was definitely very hesitant to ever leave them. I don't know that you watched Gray.
Yeah. Yeah. I always
In
took him to school.
but whenever I got nervous, I had a pretty keen sense of when he was using and when he
Yeah.
wasn't. Then I immediately made other arrangements. Even though he was home and not working at the time, I still paid a babysitter to watch our kids in the mornings. But yeah, as long as he was drug testing, I didn't worry about it at all.
And I think it was those types of that type of thing that led up to the final fall on
Yeah.
your knees and pray,
Yeah.
and knowing that I'm here, I can take care of my kids, but I can't
Yeah.
because I'm too wrapped up in a little white thing that big. You know what I mean?
Now, you never went to heroin, right?
No. I never shot heroin. I tried it.
He's terrified of needles.
I mean, I'm terrified to put anything into. I was always terrified to put anything into my veins.
Yeah.
But I did try it. I think I tried smoking it and snorting it, but other than a couple times, it was mostly pills and
Yeah.
cocaine.
Yeah. So, how do you feel about Kaylee now? Having been through all that you've been through?
It's my best friend. It's definitely my best friend.
I'm really glad you guys have stuck with us for the first 4 weeks. This is week 5. In session 5, we are talking about rebuilding trust and accountability. See, it's one thing for someone to say that they've been clean for 6 months, but it's another thing to begin to rebuild that trust and to control how that process goes along. And also how to hold them accountable so that you know that you're doing everything that you can in cooperation with them to keep them on the path to a healthy new life. What about after Cody was clean for a while and you had to leave him with the boys alone? Was that gradual or was that pretty quick?
Well, as long as he was drug testing, I didn't worry about it.
Yeah.
So I didn't worry about leaving him with the boys then, ever. I did before. So even, I mean, I never knew if he was clean or if he wasn't. Before we were doing the drug testing, I was definitely very hesitant to ever leave them. I don't know that you watched Gray.
Yeah. Yeah, I always push him to school.
But whenever I got like nervous, I had a pretty keen sense of when he was using and when he wasn't. Then I immediately made other arrangements. Like even though he was home and not working at the time, I still paid a babysitter to watch our kids in the mornings. But yeah, as long as he was drug testing, I didn't worry about it at all.
And I think it was those types of that type of thing that led up to the final fall on your knees and pray.
Yeah.
And knowing that I'm here, I can take care of my kids, but I can't.
Yeah.
Because I'm too wrapped up in a little white thing that big, you know what I mean?
Now, you never went to heroin, right?
No. I never shot heroin. I tried it.
He's terrified of needles.
I'm terrified to put anything into. I was always terrified to put anything into my veins.
Yeah.
But I did try it. I think I tried smoking it and snorting it, but other than a couple times, it was mostly pills and cocaine.
Yeah. And tell me when it was or how that conversation came about with us 3 at the old church when you said about the drug testing.
I can't remember exactly how.
Because you improved from that point forward. That was where your clean date goes back to, I think.
November 1st, 2012.
We actually sat down and had a conversation together, so it was always felt like me against him or him against me, and every conversation we had was either him lying or me trying to go behind his back and find things or call people and try to figure out what he was doing. And we sat down in our bedroom and had a conversation. I remember having it. Do you remember that? And I said, this isn't going to work if we're not doing it together.
Yeah.
And we just put a plan in place then.
Yeah.
Like, it was, I mean, he had already gone through that. He was staying at his mom's house, and we just sat down and figured out a plan. And one of his things, I said, I don't trust you. I don't know how I'm going to ever trust you again. I'm not going to believe that you're not using if you tell me you're not. And he said, well, I'll prove it. And that was I'll prove it. You test me every week. I'll prove that I'm not.
Did you drug test him?
Yes.
Yeah.
That's
It was
awesome.
a lot of money, but we did. And we made sure, like, we
always
didn't go out to eat so we could buy the drug test. We knew which places had the test that we wanted. We knew where to go. He knew.
And we'd always try to stay, at least if they had them in stock, we'd at least try to keep one stocked at home.
And we have one at home.
We have one at home right now.
Right now. If I ever want to test him, it's there.
I mean,
we know it.
It's been almost 6 years and there's a drug test at home.
And Cody, how do you think how big of a role did that play in this whole thing?
It was finally me being held to the fire.
It was black and white.
Absolutely, yeah. It was accountability in black and white, yeah. It was, yep.
I love that because I think that it wears on a family when they have to be the investigator all the time and
Yes.
look at people's phones and make the phone calls and figure out
Yes.
where they were last night. But when it's a drug test and it's either, hey, you don't have to live with me, but if you do, you're going to be drug tested whenever I feel like it, and that has to be something you agree to, it just clears up all that.
Yeah.
There's no more desk work.
Right.
No. And I told him, like, when we first started that if it came back, that he was just out. There wasn't going to be any questioning. There wasn't going to be any excuses. If it came back and if he would have failed it, it was,
I had to get out. I
Yeah.
had to move out.
Yeah. And you knew she was serious.
Yeah, yeah.
She wasn't
yeah.
messing around.
No, she was not messing around. And then, yeah, that's when we sat down with you and, you know, went over our plan together. I think it was probably one of the hardest conversations I ever had. Both the one with Kaylee and I together and one with us, because it was the first time I actually had to face, holy crap, I gotta stop now. I really have to stop now.
Yeah.
Because even though every addict, I believe, truly wants to stop, in their head, they kind of don't think they ever will.
Right.
And it was definitely a screech on the brakes. It was a reality check.
Yeah. Yeah. So tell me a little bit about that. That's how you rebuilt some trust, right? How long did you actively give and take drug tests?
a long time.
It was a good.
9 months or more.
I was going to say maybe a year and a half.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that rebuilt your trust a little bit, didn't it?
A little bit, yeah.
With
I
that
think so.
aspect of it, I wasn't always worried about where he was or what he was doing, or he had, I know he has cash on him, what's he gonna spend it on? I didn't worry about
Right.
that stuff as much. So yeah.
Well, I want to congratulate you all for making it through this series. You are to the final session 6. And so today we're going to be talking about setting boundaries and mental health. We know that when someone is getting their life turned around and they've been clean for several months, that doesn't mean that the danger is gone. And they're fragile. And so it's important for us to set boundaries about maybe what times and how and when and where we interact with them, when they can be in our house or with certain members, younger members of our families. Another thing that's really important to pay attention to is their status of mental health. That if they have depression issues, if they have bipolar, if they have wounds from the past, abusive situations, that they get the counseling they need, the medications they need, and that they're consistent about those things. You guys look like deer in the headlights already. Jeff and Drew. So I wanted to ask some questions about two things: setting boundaries and also mental health issues. So talk to me a little bit about, maybe Drew, you go first, about how people have set boundaries around you, or you've subjected yourself to boundaries that helped you to stay clean.
Well, outreach for one thing.
Okay, so tell me a little bit about the boundaries there.
So, well, we got time limits on
Well, tell them what it is, though. What's outreach?
outreach. Is a 9-month. Well, first phase is 9 months. It's a faith-based ministry for rehabilitation, and then second phase is 4 months, and you work and you're able to have a phone and stuff then. But a lot of the boundaries they set are as far as financial, you're only allowed to have so much money a week. You know, obviously you can get your money anytime you want, but to live there, there's a certain set of expectations and rules that we follow. And one of them is, you know, certain social medias. You can't be on Snapchat and stuff like that. Boundaries, is that what you mean?
Yeah.
Stuff like that?
Yeah.
And then subjected to drug tests anytime. So anytime that you could just walk in the house and they can drug test you. So that's all. That's helpful because it's always playing in your head. You know that when you first get there.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
stuff
Jeff,
like
what
that.
about you? What do you think some boundaries are that, and you know, maybe some boundaries that you've seen yourself let go of those boundaries and it led down a wrong path and
When you go into phase 2 at outreach, the biggest thing, one of them is no speaking to females.
yeah.
For men that's had issues, that's one of the spirals.
Yeah.
You know, female persuasion
Yep.
doesn't take long.
What? So that yeah, I agree 100%. So of the guys that we could say right now that in the last 2 years that you've known that have relapsed from outreach, like once they hit phase 2 and got a girlfriend,
It don't take long.
how many of those guys do you think it was girl related?
70%.
Yeah, probably 75% of them.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people leave because they got a girlfriend that's they're still in contact with, and you know they want to be with them and stuff, and it's not a healthy relationship, but they still let that drive them. That's, you know, instead of focusing on Jesus, they're focusing on on a woman.
And so this is really hard, I think, for people to understand that you guys volunteered to live by those boundaries.
Yes.
And everybody at Outreach Ministries volunteers to live by their boundaries.
Yeah. No one lives in phase 2 because they have to.
Right. Or phase 1.
Or phase 1. So, especially phase 2 because you have all the freedom.
Right. You
So
can
you
work.
get into phase 2, you work, you got a phone, and if you're living there, then you want to change.
Yeah.
You
So
know, and there's bumps along the way, but
yeah. So what would be some family boundaries? Let's say there's a addicted son or daughter, and the family wants to let them come back home. What would be some boundaries you would say are non-negotiable boundaries?
drug tests.
Okay.
I want to look at your phone and see who you're talking to. Then I know some people get put on their Facebook, like if say me and Jeff's Facebook's connected and he gets a message, I get it too.
Oh, you can do that?
Yeah, Zach was doing that.
Yes.
Yeah, you can do that
Okay.
now. That's a big thing because Facebook's one of the, because you can hide your stuff and your messages and erase stuff, so.
Yeah, I don't think we can underestimate the power of social media to drag us back to our old circles of friends. And I think that's where it is. It's the relationships, right? With the old crew.
Well, compromising. You know what I mean? We gotta learn. You hang out with good people to achieve good things.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? As soon as you start compromising and you think that you can be there and to help somebody because you're starting to be on the right path, but you try to do it by yourself, and we gotta realize that we can't help nobody. You know, only God can help. We can plant a seed, but we need to make sure that you got accountability when you go and try to help somebody.
Yeah. A lot of times, especially if it's a guy and a girl, and the guy says, I'm just trying to help her get clean, that's just smoke and mirrors, right?
Oh, definitely.
Yeah.
I mean, everybody
women
knows
should
that.
stick with the women and men should stick with the men
Yeah,
as
it's
far as,
definitely a mirage.
as far as recovery goes.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
I think a big thing too is letting your family member know where you're at all times. Like there's no reason that you shouldn't know where someone's at.
Yeah, exactly.
So I tell you
Yep.
where I'm going all the time, even though you don't ask me.
I tell you.
And
Yeah.
just for everybody who's listening, it's because Drew lives with me right now.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, absolutely. I want to know, and I get nervous when I don't know where you are. For, like if I think I come home and I'm like, I thought you were going to be home, then I still worry about that. And he knows because I'll call him. Where you at? Well, I went to the gym or I had to go to Kroger's. But I think that's huge to just have that relationship. And almost always you're getting, I think you didn't do it as much right at the beginning when you started living with us. And now my alarm bells go off. And so you're like, hey, I'm going here, I'm going there. You text me or call me.
Yeah.
And I think that's great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Plus, I try to keep someone with me at all times.
Yeah.
Now, I go to, I'll go to certain places by myself, but if I know I got running around to do, like today, I went and grabbed Jeff.
Yep.
That's how me and Jeff ended up together today.
Yep.
Because I needed accountability, because I wanted to go shopping and stuff, and so I got Jeff to go.
And it only takes one wrong store or gas station to meet up with one girl that you've already slept with in the past that uses, and it can be a 5-second decision, right? To turn and go with them somewhere. And then that can turn into days, weeks, or death.
Or death, yes.
Yeah.
So let's talk a little bit about mental health. How does mental health, what part does mental health play in addiction? Like how does depression, anxiety, bipolar, how do those things play into addiction?
Well, me personally, I was molested, beat on ever since I was a little kid. At 11 years old, I had my jaw broke.
Yeah.
But as in mental health, I drink and got high. To one thing is to get numb.
Yeah.
That's what I realize now. That's my general reason why.
So it was self-medicating.
Yeah, and then after that, I started liking it.
Yeah.
And just not too long ago, I relapsed, and it was just cause a female.
Yeah.
And my brother passed away, and that's what I known to do.
So you wanted to cover the pain and find companionship.
Yep, and that's so. So I was going and getting counsel, and and praying, and I started compromising. I started, just started not reading my Bible as much. That's what I don't understand about the secular programs, about when people, it's more than just to get people off drugs. There's a reason why people was doing drugs from the get-go.
Yeah.
They might start liking it now, but there's some kind of mental problem that they was covering up or dealing with, or is making them more comfortable being around people, more sociable, make them like, make them loved.
Yeah. Yeah, all those factors fit in. Drew, what about you? What do you think about?
Oh, I know. I used to be on depression and anxiety medicine, and I know when I'm not on them anymore. God has taken that away from. I still have anxiety and stuff sometimes, but I'm able to get through that now.
Yeah.
And I owe all that to Christ, because He definitely supernaturally took that away from me for.
Yeah.
But before, like the depression and anxiety, if I wasn't on my meds, I would do a complete turnaround and go straight to drugs.
Yeah.
Like, so anybody that's suffering from depression or anxiety, they need to be regulated with a doctor.
Yeah.
And
for sure.
And because the effects of drugs is the same effect, like it numbs you. So you don't feel the depression or the anxiety anymore.
Yeah.
And that was one of the main things. Like sometimes I couldn't even function. Like if I wasn't high, then I was experiencing crazy anxiety or up and down, like depression, times of like manic mode. And if I didn't use, I used it as my own self-medication.
Yeah.
So getting mental health taken care of is a huge factor in getting in sobriety.
Yeah, and I think it's important for people to understand that if they got family members that are struggling with addiction, that's going to be the cycle without accountability. that they're going to get on their meds, they're going to get off their meds. They're going to choose when to skip them, when to take them, and it's going to lead to relapses until that gets straightened out on a regular basis,
Yeah.
right? Until that's consistent.
Yeah.
I do want to make this statement and then see what you guys think about it. So I've been saying for a couple years now that recovery is only a byproduct of discipleship. So that full recovery to becoming a new creature can only happen through Jesus Christ. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
I've been trying to get I started using drugs when I was 12, needles when I was 13, and I have been through methadone maintenance, Suboxone maintenance, 8 different secular programs, jail time, and it wasn't until discipleship, friendship, through people spending time with me and creating time to spend with me that I didn't realize that there was a better life out there.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like
Yep.
God supernaturally intervened through other people to save me,
Yep.
to make me a new creation.
So it takes the whole body of Christ, doesn't it?
Yes.
And it takes you being surrounded by. Now, do you think that you need to be surrounded by other people that are trying to commit their lives to Jesus and get clean? Or do you think you could get clean just being surrounded by people who don't know anything about addiction?
It makes you can, but to fully understand a lot of people, I think that's the right reason why outreach is so good.
Yep.
Because like the staff there, they understand fully because they've been down that situation.
Yep.
I ain't saying that nobody can't love you, but to fully understand, that's the big difference.
So a program like Outreach Ministries or a church group where people who've struggled with addiction come together to hold each other accountable.
Yeah.
Well, I also feel like people that even haven't been through addiction, but have Christ in them and show love to you, that's important too. Because I have people through this church, like Chris and all them guys, that they've never been through addiction, but they love me.
Yeah, yeah, and I think that the church, and this is why we're doing this whole series, because the church needs to be on the front lines.
Yeah.
Loving folks that are struggling with addiction, but also learning how not to make it worse.
Exactly. Yeah.
You know?
Like my aunt told me, she wasn't gonna buy me no food. She ain't giving me no money. She's not giving me no clothes. She's not giving me nothing. But if I want a ride to like outreach or something of that nature, call her up.
Yeah.
Or if I need help to find one. If I want real help,
Yeah.
call her.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Not to use her. You know what I mean? She'd do anything in the world for me to get me back on the right track.
Yep.
And like when I come to outreach, she got me some clothes. You know what I mean? Once she knew, that I was going, she made sure that I was taken care of.
Yeah.
Sometimes we think, because where people don't want to help us no more, that they don't love us. But that's actually the true love, because I can now realize how bad we hurt them
Yeah.
for them not to be able to help us.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It takes a lot of pain. And something that I love about Christianity is a true love. You know what I mean? To be loved, not for what I got to offer or just anything like that. The love of cause we love Christ and Christ loves us.
Yeah.
And so we love one another
Yeah.
because Christ loves us.
Yeah.
Not false love, money, drugs, sex. Actually true love.
Yeah. And it's interesting because Jesus and true love is the antidote for all the false stuff that you chase to find meaning and love and acceptance.
Yeah.
And you realize that was all empty and led down a road of destruction. But yeah, powerful.
Because it's just the same old cycle. You know what I mean? You go out and you try to get high. You're trying to just keep doing it. And once you realize that actually people loves you just because who you are, and you know, means it's the person that you are, it feels so much better. You know, like to go out and help people, and knowing that when they say, you know, thank you, I love you, and it just makes you feel good.
There's no agenda.
No.
No agenda there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's when I first went to outreach. Man, these guys come up to me, you know, saying I love you. You know, glad to see you here. I'm looking around like, man, what is these guys up to?
You suspected that they
I'm
needed
thinking they're going to try to take my stuff, or and no, you know what I mean. It just they truly, you know. And when I first went there, we still had that prison mentality, had a street mentality, and I learned there not to choose to take offense. You know what I mean? Because the only person that hurts is myself, and also. Anybody can be a thug, anybody can hurt somebody, but who can love somebody when they're trying to hurt you?
That's right.
That's a real man.
That's a real man, that's right. That's cool. I want to thank you guys for sticking with us for these last 6 weeks. And I want to just do a summary to close up today. There's a few things that I wanted to share with you in our closing thoughts. Number one is that people who have experienced trauma in their life, whether that be sexual abuse, physical abuse, PTSD events like serving in the military and experiencing horrible things, neglect as a child or abuse as a child, that those things cause those folks to be many times more likely to abuse drugs and alcohol. So I just want us to understand that addiction is almost always a side effect or a byproduct of some sort of mental stuff that's going on or some sort of emotional stuff that's going on. And if you don't address those things, then the addiction can never fully be addressed. One of the other things I want you to know is that there's a thing called arrested development. I don't know if you know about this, but what that means is that if someone has been in active addiction for 5, 10, 15 years since they were 15 or 20, arrested development is the concept that they stay at a maturity level of when they began using and lost touch with reality. And so if they've been using for 10 years, they might be 30 years old, but they might not act 30 years old. And that's something that we have to expect. That's something that they'll have to grow in as they enter into the life of recovery. And so what did we talk about this past 6 weeks? There are 6 ways that we can fight back against addiction. Number one is to know the signs of addiction. If you recognize that there's addiction, then you can address it. The second thing is that you would refuse to enable your loved ones. If they're asking you for $20, if they're asking you for gas money, if they want to live at your house for free while they're in active addiction, anything we do is giving them the opportunity to use their resources to get the drugs that they want. Week 3, we talked about tough love. And we heard some stories about spouses that delivered tough love to their husbands in order to get them to see what was going on. The 4th week, we talked about forgiveness. And we heard Kaylee talk about how hard it was and how long it took to forgive Cody, but that God gave them the strength to get to that point. 5th week, we talked about rebuilding trust and accountability. I love this piece because I heard from Kaylee and Cody, from Teresa and Scott, that those gals put down some serious ground rules, that they built trust through checking on them, through accountability, through drug testing, through things that most people would never have the guts to do, but it eliminated so much guesswork. And the 6th week, We talked about setting boundaries, defining boundaries for our lives, and addressing mental health issues. Those things go hand in hand. Now, the last thing is something that I think is an assumption on my part, and that is that most of all, God is calling you to enter into discipling relationships with those that are struggling with addiction. That it's a process of discipleship. I would remind us of this, that only Jesus can make us a new creation. That recovery and recovery programs apart from Jesus might make us clean for a while, but they can't make us a new creation in Christ. Only Jesus can do that. And they need a discipling body of folks, friends in the community of faith that can help them to get there. And so I would say this, full recovery is only possible as a byproduct of discipleship. Let me say it again. Full recovery is only possible if it is a byproduct of discipleship. And so your focus should not be on just getting someone clean, but getting them to Jesus, helping them to find the one who can make their life new again. And if you have a loved one that's struggling with addiction and they've relapsed time after time and you're losing hope, let me just say this. As long as there's breath in their lungs, there's hope. I've had friends that I knew that were out on the streets using again. They had disappeared into the drug world, and I just continued to pray for them. And here's how I prayed. And we do this quite often around the table in our recovery ministry that we partner with, that if one of them relapses and disappears, we pray that they're miserable. We pray that God just takes away all the folks that would help them, that they can't eat, that they can't find a place to get shelter, that maybe they need to sleep under a bridge or get arrested, that maybe that's those consequences of their actions when everybody pulls away from them, that they finally wake up and realize they need to get help. Unfortunately, most of these folks have to face death and make a decision before they're willing to surrender their lives to the discipling body of Christ. And so that's the prayer that we will need to pray for our loved ones so that God can intervene. So I want to close today with a prayer. Father God, we just ask that you would give us determination. Lord, that every person that is in our realm of influence, that is struggling with addiction, that we would fight back against it, that we would love them, that we would enter into discipling relationships with them, and that through the body of Christ, we can see them become new creations. And not just not be addicts anymore, but be powerful influences in the kingdom of God. And so we ask all these things in the name of Jesus. Amen.